Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well. We are on Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, and we are trying to understand our Mishnah. The Mishnah, we had a machlokas about this Eruv, which is in a closet, which is locked, and the person lost the key. We have opinion number one saying it's okay, Rabbi Eliezer saying it's not okay. So we saw one opinion already yesterday, and that was the opinion suggesting that this was Rameir who allowed breaking into the closet. It was we had to make a new kimta. We had to assume that the Mishnah is talking about a case where it's on Shabbos, where it's on Yom Tov, not on Shabbos, and the machlokas was about breaking down this type of structure. And now we're going to suggest a different suggestion. Rabbi Yosef we're talking about a closet made of wood. One holds that it is a utensil. And again, as we saw yesterday, there is no building and destroying with kalim, with utensils, does not apply. And it's a wooden closet, and therefore it's a full-fledged utensil, and therefore breaking it on Shabbos is totally fine. That's the opinion of the Tanna Kama of the first opinion. Umar Savar Ohelu, and Rabbi Eliezer, who says that if you lost the key, you're not allowed to break it, is because he holds that this wooden closet is actually considered a structure. Literally, the word means a tent, but in this context it means a structure, and therefore can't be broken down. We've looked at Tani tonight, and we're going to connect this machlokas, this Mishnah, to a machlokas of another Mishnah. It's a Mishnah about a zav. A zav is a type of tumah. We've talked about this before, a certain type of discharge, which happens a couple of days, and this zav or zava is able to generate and transfer tumah to other things. So hikish al gabeshida teva migdal, if the zav strikes a carriage, crate, or closet, these are all things made of wood, and it causes it to move, tamein, those things become tamei. Reb Nechemia Reb Shimon mitarin. Whereas Reb Nechemia Reb Shimon say that the items are still tahar. What's the machlokas? Why do one say it's impure, one says it's pure? The first opinion holds that it is a utensil, and utensil is susceptible to contamination. And Reb Nechemia Reb Shimon holds that it is not a structure. And we saw this earlier. Remember this notion that something which is part of a binyan, part of a structure, cannot become tummy. That's why, as we've spoken about in the past, if there's dam nida, if there's blood of a nida on something like a toilet which is attached to the ground, that is not tummy because it's on something which is not mikabel tumah because it's part of a structure. So that's what we're explaining. The machlokas over here is the same machlokas we're suggesting, that what they're arguing about is whether or not a wooden box, a wooden closet is considered a utensil or it's considered a structure. Okay, and that's why one says tahar because it is a structure, and the Tanna Kama says that it's tummy because he considers it a utensil. And we're going to say that's the same machlokas over here. Are you allowed to break it? Well, it depends. If it's a building, if it's a structure, you're not allowed to break it because binyan mistira, because building and destroying is forbidden. Whereas if you hold that it is a utensil, there is ein binyan mistira b'kelim. There is no concept of building and destroying with a structure. Amar Abaye b'tisbar, Abaye challenges this. He says, "Vataynu tam brayso ohel v'nisat tameh." If a zav strikes a structure and it moves, the structure is tameh. Kli ve'einu nisatar. If a zav strikes a utensil and it does not move, the utensil is tar. V'ktani seifa, and it's taught at the end of the Mishnah previously cited. There's a Mishnah where we have the machlokas about this type of structure. That ve'im hayu nisotin tmeim, that if they are moved by the zav, they are tameh. Even according to Reb Nechemia Reb Shimon. So Reb Nechemia Reb Shimon agreed that if this wooden this wooden closet is moved, then it will become tameh. If it's moved by the direct force of the zav, it's tameh. If it moves because of vibrations caused by the zav, meaning if the zav is jumping up and down on the floor, and ultimately that causes the closet to move, then it's going to be tar. So what do you see from here? Bottom line is you see that even Reb Nechemia and Reb Shimon agree that if this wooden closet is moved directly by the zav, it's going to be tameh. So you can't tell me it's because they hold it to structure. Clearly they hold it to utensil. So what is the machlokas between Reb Nechemia and Reb Shimon and the Tanna Kama in the discussion about the zav? So Elam Abaye says you completely misunderstood the machlokas over there. Tikuli alma hesed machmas kocho tameh. Everyone agrees that if a zav causes even a structure to move as a result of direct force, then the object becomes tameh. Okay, so when it comes to tumah of a zav, then even if it's a full-fledged structure, even if it's a building, okay, it's obviously not so common, but if somehow if Superman, who's a zav, and he's able to go ahead and directly move the building, then it becomes tameh. Machmas ra'ada tahar. But if someone's jumping up and down and causes something to move, then even if it's a utensil, it's not going to become tameh because it's not direct movement. Here we're talking about vibration caused by the zav's direct force. In other words, the zav didn't push it, the zav hit it with a stick, and then it vibrated. It didn't move. It stayed in its place, meaning it didn't move from one place to another, just vibrated in its place. And this is what the argument. One considers that vibration in its place to be movement, and one holds it is not considered movement. Fine. But basically what we're pointing out is that there's no way they were arguing in that case about this crate, carriage, closet, this wooden closet, whether or not it was utensil or a structure, because everyone agreed even if it's considered a structure, you would still be able to become tameh. They're arguing about something totally different, about vibrations caused by a person's direct movement. Okay, and therefore what we're saying now is that you can't tell me that the machlokas in our Mishnah is about whether or not this wooden closet is considered a structure or is considered a utensil. And you're saying the reason I can tell you that is because based on this other Mishnah where that's what they're arguing about, we we just pointed out that's not what they're arguing about. So the Gemara has to come back and say, okay, so how do you understand our Mishnah? So how do you understand our Mishnah? Abai and Rava say the following idea. B'manul uktir, we have to make an ukimta. Again, we have to make an assumption. In our Mishnah, it's talking about a very particular case. B'minul uktir b'misnan askin. We're talking about a closet that has a lock, which is tied to a rope. Okay, in other words, the locking mechanism is tied to a rope. Uvai sakina nifsake. And the only way to open it is with a knife. It's a very strong rope. You can't untie it. Whatever it is, you have to use a knife. Tanakama savar lak Rav Yossi the Amar Kol Hakim Tal Mishamis Chosmi Master Hagadol V'Yatzei Shal Macharesha. The Tanakama says that you're allowed to get that the Eruv is a good Eruv. Why? Because he holds that you're allowed to take any knife on Shabbos. The only types of knives you're allowed to take is a large saw, a coulter. These are knives which people are very careful about, and therefore they are a special type of muksa. But all other types of knives, a person's allowed to use on Shabbos. Meaning, even though a typical knife is used for food, you're allowed to use it to break open a rope. And therefore, they say that it's a good Eruv because you could, if you want to, take a knife from your kitchen drawer and open up the closet, the lock which closes the closet. Even an article of clothing, even a spoon, you're only allowed to use them for very limited purposes. Okay, we don't pass in this way. They hold you're only allowed to use these things for their primary use, meaning you're allowed to use a spoon only for soup or only for cereal. You're not allowed to use it to go ahead and push something off your table, right? They hold that part of the laws of Shabbos and part of the laws of Muktzah is that utensils are only allowed to be used for their own purpose. We saw this, if you remember, in Masechah Shabbos. But we paskin, by the way, like the Tanakhama, and therefore you're allowed to use any utensils. This just came up. I don't know if someone's asking about this, about scissors. For some reason, people are very nervous about using scissors on Shabbos. So there's a halacha you can't cut precisely on Shabbos. That is a biblical violation. But let's say using scissors to open up a ice pop, right? Or opening up a package, not in a precise fashion, not with like a perfect cut, but you open it like whatever, just some random way. But the point is, it's a lot easier than a knife. 100%, it's a lot of use. Granted, scissors are typically used, and that's not an example over here. What they're arguing about is, can I use a knife, like a kitchen knife, for can I use a kitchen knife for using it like to cut a rope, and their bottom line is paskin, it's totally fine to use according to the Tanakhama, and therefore he says this Eruv is a good Eruv since he could theoretically cut open this rope, and Rabbi Eliezer holds it is not kosher. Okay, nizgagel chutz l'tchum. Okay, then the Mishnah, we have a new Mishnah. The Mishnah says if the Eruv, after you put the Eruv down, it rolled beyond the tchum, beyond the limits of city limits, nafal of gal, or if a pile of rubble fell on it, nisraf or got burnt, truma v'nitmeis. Let's say the Eruv was truma and become tameh, od yom in an Eruv. If it happened while it was still day, meaning before it was Shabbos, then it's not a good Eruv. If it occurred after dark, then it is a good Eruv. Okay? Meaning, because right when we said this earlier, that if something happens to the Eruv after Shabbos begins, no problem, the Eruv is a good Eruv. If there's a doubt into when this happens, in other words, let's say you put your Eruv, and then you heard there's a fire in that area. You come back, the Eruv is destroyed, right? And when did it happen? Did it happen after Shabbos started? It happened before Shabbos started. So says, we have machlokes about this. Rameir Rabbi Yehuda Amrim Hareze Chamar Gamal. It is comparable to a donkey driver who is also a camel driver. What in the world does that mean? What that means is as follows. Okay, so here's a picture over here in your art scroll, if you have an art scroll. So you put your Eruv, your house is over here, okay? Now, if I would not put an Eruv, then I would have 2,000 amos in this direction and 2,000 amos in this direction, and I'd be able to go through the city, okay? But I put an Eruv over here with the intention of going over here. The challenge is I don't know when this Eruv happened. So what it is a chamar gamal. So basically what I'm limited to is I could only go in the space that overlaps. Because in other words, if this Eruv is good, if my Erev Tchumen is good, then I actually lose my ability to go in this direction because my Erev Tchumen basically established this is my residence, and I'm able to go 2,000 amos in this way, 2,000 amos in this way. Right? Do you see? In other words, if I didn't put an Erev, then there's my house, I would have 2,000 amos this way, 2,000 amos this way. If my Erev Tchumen was good, I'd have 2,000 amos this way, which is what I was trying to do, and 2,000 amos this way. But now that I'm not sure which one it is, all I have is the overlapping area, the gray area, which is between the house and the questionable Erev, because I will not be able to go this way because maybe my Erev was not good. I will not be able to go this way because maybe my Erev is good, right? Okay, so that's what it means, Chamar Gamal. He is like a donkey driver. Oh, what's the analogy? A donkey driver goes behind the donkey goes in front, and the camel, it's the opposite. The camel person goes in front of the camel. So the point is, it's like someone who's stuck between his camel and his donkey. That's the idea. It's just a Babylonian or whatever, Eretz Yisraelic term, which, had we lived back then, we would understand fully. Savig Erev Kasher. They disagree. They say a doubtful Erev it could be a good Erev. Rav Yossi of Tulmas, Heyed Mishum Chamisha Zakenim of Tulmas attested in the name of 5 Chachamim, al Sfeik Erev Shekasher. Okay, meaning this goes back to the old tradition that a doubtful Erev is a valid Erev. In other words, if you're not sure when it fell apart, it's a good Erev. Okay, Niskagel Chutz L'Tchum. The Erev, if the Erev rolled beyond the Tchum, Amarav L'Shem Niskagel Chutz Arba Amos. Rava adds, it's only when it went beyond 4 Amos. Aval L'Soch Arba Amos, but if it remained within 4 Amos of the Tchum's border, the Erev is valid. Hanos Neruvo Yesh Lo Arba. Okay, fine. It's within 4 amos because he holds that Hanos and Eruv Yishla Arba Amos, person who plays an Eruv has 4 amos surrounding themselves on for Shabbos residence, and therefore, if let's say the person put their Eruv right where they wanted it to be, right at the edge of the at the edge of the 2,000 amos, and then it rolled, but it's within 4 amos of where the Eruv was, it's good because the person has 4 amos, and therefore it's still within the. We treat that like it's within the Tchum border. Okay. Now the Mishnah gave a whole bunch of examples. The Gemara is going to try to understand why we need all these different examples. The bottom line is it's saying that if the Eruv got lost, it's no good. So the Gemara says, "Nafal of gal if a heap fell on it." The Mishnah, the Gemara assumed initially that when they were analyzing the Mishnah, that we're talking about a case where a person could theoretically take it by digging through the rubble with their hands. And laymanless doesn't look Rebbe. And then this Mishnah will come out not like Rebbe, because what's the issue with rubble, moving rubble? It's muksa. These stones, these things which broke down are muksa. So Rebbe holds that if it's something which is only asur midrabanan, muksa is midrabanan, then it's going to be a valid eruv. Dikra Rebbe, because if it would be like Rebbe Ha'amar called davar shemishim shvos, anything that's forbidden because of rabbinical degree, logos or levin ashmashos is not prohibited during the twilight period. And according to Rebbe, it should be allowed. The Gemara says, if you take Rebbe, even when it's like Rebbe, lotzricha debai mara v'chatzina. The only way to move this rubble is with a hoe and a pick, and that's excavation. Excavation is biblically prohibited, and therefore the Mishnah even goes like Rebbe. And now we've had 3 Mishnahs where we've wondered and struggled with who the Mishnah is, and ultimately establishing they all could fit like Rebbe, who holds that you're allowed to do malacha dirabanan beit hashmashos. Okay, then the Gemara continues further. Tzricha, and you know all these different cases. Ditan and Skalgel. Had you only taught the case of rolling beyond the tchum mishum delis gabe, you would say that the eruv is invalid. Again, the Mishnah says if it rolls beyond the tchum, it's invalid. Again, assuming it went beyond 4 amos, it's invalid. So you'd say mishum delis gabe because it's not near the person. But if a heap fell on it, it's there. It's just you can't access it, but it's there. Maybe you'd say it's a good eruv. Okay, and therefore I'd say both cases. Had you just taught the case of the rubble falling on it, mishum mikasa, you'd say because it's covered and therefore it's inaccessible. But in the case where it rolls beyond the tchum, zimnin to us is dika mighty lay. Sometimes a wind could get the same wind which caused it to roll out of the Eruv, the wind could come in the opposite direction and roll it right back. So Imel have Eruv, maybe you'd say that's a good Eruv. Tzricha, therefore you need both the cases of the pile falling on it and the case of rolling beyond the Tchum. O Nisraf, the Mishnah continued saying a burnt before nightfall, Truma v'nitbes, or a case of Truma which it became Tameh. Lamali, why do we need these 2 examples? So Tanav Nisraf, the reason we had the case of burnt, Lodiach lekoch Rav Yossi, to say that Rav Yossi, who rules leniently, right? The Tana in the Mishnah who said that if it's a suffix, it's kosher, he's saying even in a situation where it's not there anymore. Right? You don't even have the Eruv anymore. Sometimes we'll talk about this a little bit more, I think. But when it comes to chazakas, when it comes to a matter of like assuming the status quo, we look at the thing, we say, hey, this thing is here, it was here before, etc. So in a situation where it got burnt, we say it's not even here anymore. So therefore, the status quo is it's not here, and that should indicate that, and it wasn't here before either, and therefore we should be stringent. Rabbi says no, even though it's not here anymore, we can assume it was here when Shabbos began. And to the Truma v'nitmes, and we taught the case of Truma which became Tameh, Lodiach lekoch Rameir, to teach the case of Rameir. Over here we're talking about it is here, and it's just that it's Tameh. We knew it became Tameh. We just don't know when it became Tameh. Rameir says it's here. I know it's here, but we're not going to go with the old status quo which said it was Tahar, but rather we're going to go with the new status quo saying it's Tameh. Have a wonderful day.